Chapter 473. Sandy paused for a while before continuing. Actually, it's not up to me to decide who you want to mate with. But I feel that you are the happiest when Leah and Elvis are by your side. I want you to be happy forever. You won't blame me for talking too much, right? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and leaned into Sandy's arms, saying, "You are my best friend. Of course you have the right to express your opinion on my matters, because I know you are the person who treats me the best in this world." Sandy blushed and said shyly, "That's not it. Elvis and Leah also treat you very well." Gu Mengmeng sighed. "Elvis is my husband and the father of my child. It's only right for him to treat me well. But Leah, it's precisely because he treats me so well that I can't build my happiness on his pain and torment. That's too cruel." Sandy held Gu Mengmeng's little face and stared straight at her with her round eyes, saying seriously, "Do you know what's the most cruel thing you've done?" Gu Mengmeng was momentarily stunned and shook her head in confusion. Sandy said, "Do you still remember when you fell into the lake last year? That day, Leah suddenly came to my house and asked me to cook a pot of watermelon for you. I was still angry at him and couldn't care less about being afraid of him, so I used the wooden stick to hit him, wanting to chase him away. He hit me a few times harshly, but stood there in a daze, not moving an inch. If it wasn't for Bode stopping me, I might have accidentally killed him that day." Gu Mengmeng was extremely surprised. This Sandy really dared to do anything for her. The first time she resisted Nina, it seemed like it was because Nina was bad-mouthing her behind her back. Leah was clearly someone she was so scared of that she wanted to take a detour, but she actually dared to fight him for her. Sandy recalled as she continued, "I was so angry then, I asked him to scram. I told him to stop pretending to be kind in front of me. If he really cared about you so much, he should have cooked it himself and sent it to you." Guess what he said? Gu Mengmeng thought about it, but could not imagine how Leah would have replied at that time. Sandy said, "He said that he didn't even have the right to cry for you, not to mention preparing food for you." I didn't understand what was going on at that time. Later on, I heard from Colin that you sang a song for Leah and the lyrics seemed to have a line like, "I have already lost the right to cry for you." Gu Mengmeng lowered her eyelids and muttered, "It's I have lost the right to cry for you." Sandy, "Yes, that's the sentence. You don't even know, when Leah said those words, his entire being was like a ghost. I even suspected that I could directly pass through his body. There was no life at all at that time, it was deathly still." Gu Mengmeng forced a smile and said, "Didn't you use a stick to hit him? The stick didn't even miss, so how could you pass through?" Sandy blushed and said, "Aya, it's just a metaphor. Think about it, how frightening Leah looked in the past. If he was still exuding a fearsome aura like before, how would I dare to hit him? That day, he didn't even have that frightening aura. It was as if he was made out of snow, soulless, yes, soulless." Gu Mengmeng's heart twitched. So at that time, she was not the only one who was dealing with emotional wounds. Leah, that hurtful person, did not have a good time either. Chapter 474. Gu Mengmeng's lips curled up when she recalled Lee's expression that day. Sandy suddenly sighed and said, "But just now, when I looked at Leah, he looked like he was half dead and actually said some incomprehensible words, something like, 'I crossed the boundary, so you ran away.'" Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and did not say a word. She remembered that Leah had said those words to her on the way back from Sauter. But she could not bear the responsibility, so she backed off. Sandy said carefully, "I am especially grateful to you for matchmaking me with Colin. Because I am very, very blissful now. But I hope that you are also blissful. Leah is a good male. Even if you don't want to mate with him now, don't chase him away. Without you, he really can't live on." Gu Mengmeng bit her lips and said, "But Elvis," Sandy sighed and said, "You know about Elvis and Lee's duel, right?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Elvis had already told her about this during the winter. Sandy continued, "Colin told me that he accidentally overheard a conversation between Elvis and Leah. Elvis said that he seemed to be a thief who stole Lee's happiness. In the beast world, snatching is not shameful, but stealing is. I guess that Elvis kept creating opportunities for Leah because of this reason. If you accept Leah, then Elvis will only get one more position as the first partner than Leah. To both of them, it's the same no matter who takes this position. But if you reject Leah, it's fine if Leah can find a better female to mate with. But do you think that this possibility exists? Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something, but Sandy did not give her a chance. She answered her own question directly, not possible. Gu Mengmeng almost bit her own tongue. Seeing that Sandy had no intention of letting her interrupt, she just obediently listened to Sandy. Sandy said, then, there is only one possibility left. Leah had nothing left to live for because of you and passed away in the end. But what about Elvis? He has to feel guilty for the rest of his life because this happiness originally belonged to Leah. He stole Lee's female, stole Lee's life, stole Lee's life. Gu Mengmeng wanted to say that this was not the way to use vanishing beauty. But looking at Sandy's furious expression, Gu Mengmeng did not dare to interrupt her. She just nodded obediently, indicating that she understood. Hearing Gu Mengmeng's reply, Sandy nodded in satisfaction. So, no matter from Lee's or Elvis's point of view, keeping Leah is the best choice for them. Whether you want to mate or not, it's up to you. Don't feel pressured just because Leah treats you well, as if you owe him something if you don't mate with him. Please, it's natural for a male to treat a female well. If you have to mate with someone who treats you well, how many partners would you have? Let me tell you, there is no such rule in the beast world. Mating depends on the female's mood, it has nothing to do with anything else. If Lil Miss is happy, you can wash me clean and lie down. If Lil Miss is not happy, there is no use even if you lie flat. Gu Mengmeng's face was filled with horror as she thought to herself, darling Sandy, can't you be more tactful with your words? I'm still a baby. Chapter 475. You value your lover over your friends. Gu Mengmeng accused. Sandy turned back to look at Gu Mengmeng, then nodded seriously, as if admitting to this accusation. Gu Mengmeng said, I have nothing to say now that you admitted it so calmly. Sandy blushed shyly and said, when you went to participate in the beauty pageant, you left the 4 cubs with me. In order to take care of them, I have neglected Bode and Colin for a long time. I promise to make it up to them once you return. I will go back first, they are all waiting for me. Gu Mengmeng, Sandy twisted her body and trotted out. Gu Mengmeng sighed helplessly, but was not angry at Sandy. Sandy had already done enough for her. The sisterhood that she had not obtained in the modern world had all been satisfied by Sandy. It was great that she could be happy. Ow, ow, the little wolf scrambled over and Kanwu was the first to jump into Gu Mengmeng's arms. Gu Mengmeng instinctively reached out to catch Kanwu, only to realize that he was covered in mud. She said helplessly, what did you do just now? Why are you so dirty? Ow, 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 Kanwu recounted everything that had happened just now, but his mother did not understand a single word. Rubbing Kanwu's head, she looked at Heda, Qi Xian and Jiaoyu, who had all rushed back. Gu Mengmeng shouted outside in exasperation, hubby, boil water for the children to bathe. Ow! Elvis howled, then ran in happily. Xiao Meng, you are finally willing to talk to me. Elvis was overjoyed. He took a step forward and pushed the 4 cubs onto the ground. Then, he hugged his wife and heaved a long sigh of relief. You have ignored me for so many days. If I had known that you would be willing to talk to me after throwing these 4 into the mud, I would have thrown them away long ago. Gu Mengmeng raised her brows. You threw my sons into the mud? Elvis replied, no, they jumped by themselves. I couldn't even stop them. Gu Mengmeng said, you promised me that you will never lie to me again. Elvis was silent. Then, he pinched his ears and knelt beside the bed. Wife, I know I was wrong. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis's henpecked look with a dumbfounded expression and said, stand up right now, right now. Elvis shook his head and said, no, Bode said that if I make my own female angry, I must admit my mistake with a good attitude so that I can be forgiven. I don't want you to be angry and ignore me again, so I admit my mistake. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and asked, Bode taught you? Elvis nodded and said, yeah, Bode sent Sandy over just now. You two wanted to chat and didn't allow us to listen, so Bode and I brought the four of them outside for basic training. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, I will settle the score with Bode later. You better forget everything he taught you, not a single word. Elvis was stunned for a moment and hurriedly stood up. All right, I forgot. Gu Mengmeng sat up and looked up at Elvis. She said, my man should be a man of indomitable spirit. My man won't do such a useless thing like kneeling down to his wife. Elvis nodded and said, all right, I won't do it if you say so. Gu Mengmeng nodded in satisfaction and said, tell me, what kind of basic training did you give these four little ones? They are so dirty. Chapter 476. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes at Elvis but did not pursue the matter further. She looked at her four sons who had been thrown onto the ground and frowned. Pointing at Jiaoyu, she asked, why is there no mud on third brother at all? Elvis turned his head and met his third brother's eyes. His gaze unknowingly became gentle. Stretching out his hand, Jiaoyu immediately jumped onto Elvis's lap. He placed his front paws on Elvis's chest and licked his face intimately. He even used his little head to nudge his chin. Elvis replied with a purr that only wolves could understand. Jiaoyu leaped back to Gu Mengmeng's back and placed his chin on Gu Mengmeng's waist. He laid down obediently and allowed his mother to stroke his fur. Elvis looked at the mother and son gently and replied, Jiaoyu's eyes are so similar to yours, clean and transparent. Looking at his eyes, I could not bear to throw him away. Gu Mengmeng shook her head in exasperation. She turned to look again. Although Huda and Qixuan also had mud on them, most of it was concentrated on their limbs. It seemed like they had run back up on their own after being thrown down. But Kanwu, Elvis saw Gu Mengmeng looking at Kanwu and before she could ask, he answered first. He jumped into play and refused to come up no matter what. I couldn't even stop him. You can ask Bode if you don't believe me. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, you are obviously bullying my sons for not knowing how to speak. Bode? Would he dare to expose you? Elvis's smile froze and he did not dare to reply. Gu Mengmeng sighed and did not pursue the matter. After all, if she lectured Elvis in front of his sons, Elvis's authority as a father would be greatly reduced. Heaving a sigh of relief, Gu Mengmeng stood up from the bed and called out, Steamed Bun Dishuan Kanwu, stand at attention. The four little fellows did not know what standing at attention meant. They only knew that their mother was calling them, so they all rushed to Gu Mengmeng's feet and huddled together. Kanwu even took the opportunity to rub the mud on his body onto Elvis. Seeing how he was in a bad mood but did not dare to punish him in front of his mother, Kanwu's eyes, which were identical to Elvis's, were filled with pride. Elvis clenched his teeth. This Kanwu was indeed very annoying. Gu Mengmeng did not notice the fight between the father and son. She only asked her four sons to line up and follow behind her out of the cave. Elvis had finally been pardoned, so it was naturally more important for him to coax his wife now, so he was not in the mood to argue with Kanwu. He only accidentally used his tail to sweep him when he passed by him, directly sweeping him from the back of the group to the wall at the side. With a dull thud, that fellow did not even make a sound as he had the guts to do so. When Gu Mengmeng heard the noise and turned around, she saw Kanwu stumbling back to the team. She turned to look at Elvis, who shrugged his shoulders, indicating that he was innocent. The moment she exited the cave, Gu Mengmeng saw Leah standing at a distance. It had only been a few days since she last saw him, but he had lost a lot of weight, looking decadent and weathered. That pair of long and narrow eyes seemed to contain 1,000 years of hope, and the moment he saw Gu Mengmeng, they gushed out and drowned her. Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and made up her mind to turn her head to the side. She walked past Leah but chose to ignore him. If you love, please love deeply. If you abandon, please be thorough. Don't be ambiguous, hurting others and yourself. Gu Mengmeng repeated this sentence in her heart, telling herself that as long as she was more ruthless, Leah might just give up and leave after accumulating enough disappointment with her. That way, maybe. Chapter 477. Leah grabbed Gu Mengmeng's arm. but did not pull her into his arms. He just maintained a back-to-back position. He did not dare to turn back, afraid that he would personally witness her rejection. She did not dare to turn back, afraid that she would not be able to withstand his pleading. Lee's voice was a little dry, with a hint of indifference in his hoarse voice. I will go to the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mengmeng wanted to ask, what are you going to the platform of the deity's punishment for? But the words were stuck in her throat, turning into a faint oh. Leah used all his strength to slowly loosen his grip. He let go, but she hesitated. Humans were indeed selfish and greedy. Leah was right, she did enjoy his attentive care and fawning by her side. Smiling bitterly, Gu Mengmeng told herself that since she could not afford it, then she would set him free. Gu Mengmeng pulled her hand out and left resolutely. Only after she had walked a distance away did Leah dare to turn around. Leaning against the tree trunk, he slowly sat on the ground and clutched his chest tightly. His gaze was fixated in the direction where Gu Mengmeng had disappeared to. His left hand, which was holding onto her wrist, maintained the posture when she pulled away. He said, in this lifetime, I only made that one mistake, but I never had the chance to be forgiven. Gu Mengmeng brought her sons to the stream and wanted to jump in to help them bathe, but was stopped by Elvis. Elvis called out and Jiaoyu and Heda jumped into the stream with a plop. Qi Xian hesitated for a moment, but after being glared at by Elvis, he could only jump in. Only Kanwu, who was covered in mud, stood by the shore, refusing to go down. He was covered in mud and felt uncomfortable. But he just did not want to listen to Elvis. The more he asked them to go down, the more he refused to go down. Since Mother was here, what could he do? Kanwu felt a pain in his buttocks, and when he regained his senses, he had already fallen into the stream in a free fall. He tried to struggle with Elvis, but was stopped by Heda. Heda used the little wolf's language to say, can't you see that Mother is upset? Father is thinking of ways to comfort Mother, don't cause trouble. Kanwu then realized that Mother's expression was not quite right. It cried out twice, but failed to attract its mother's attention. Only then did it reluctantly soak in the water and begin to clear its body. He thought to himself, I won't argue with you for my mother's sake. Otherwise, I won't wash my body of mud. I'll just stand in front of my mother like this and see how you explain it to her. Elvis knew what that fellow was thinking and could not be bothered with him. He thought to himself, if it wasn't because your mother is in a bad mood now and I'm worried that you'll get in the way while I'm coaxing my wife, do you think I'll be willing to care whether you bathe or not? It's best if you're dirty to death. When my wife hates you, I'll immediately kick you out. The father and son, who hated each other, didn't give each other any face, but for the sake of a woman who was very important to them, they temporarily reached a tacit understanding not to cause trouble for each other. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and let her sit in his arms. He held her hand gently and asked, are you really not going to forgive Leah? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, he is not the one at fault, he does not need my forgiveness. Elvis, not him? Gu Mengmeng, yes, not him, it's me. Elvis sighed and asked, because you can't mate with him? Gu Mengmeng nodded. Elvis, Xiao Meng, what exactly are you worried about? If it's because of me. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and smiled bitterly, it's not because of you, it's because I can't get over the hurdle in my heart. Aside from the topic, calm down, everyone calm down. Didn't I give you all the procedures previously? It's almost done, the darkness before dawn is the darkest. Chapter 478. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and quietly watched her 4 sons bathe in the water. However, her thoughts drifted back to a long time ago. It was also in this stream that a vixen hugged her and confessed to her, in my name, I swear to the beast deity that from today onwards, only you will be my deity, my life, my everything, oh no. Gu Mengmeng snapped back to her senses. Gu Mengmeng looked over and saw Oakley. Gu Mengmeng had not seen him for a long time and had almost forgotten about him. What is it? Speak slowly. Oakley's character was similar to Lee's. He would not usually be this anxious, but the more anxious he was, the more he had to speak slowly. Otherwise, he would definitely be stuck and unable to speak. Oakley was so anxious that he kept stomping his feet. He paced 2 to 3 rounds on the spot before catching his breath. Leah has gone up the platform of the deity's punishment and wants to burn himself to apologize to the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng was stunned, and before she could think, she had already started running towards the platform of the deity's punishment. Elvis transformed into a beast and grabbed onto Gu Mengmeng's dress with his mouth, flinging her onto his back. Gu Mengmeng did not struggle. In terms of speed, there was no way she could beat Elvis. In just a few breaths' time, Elvis had already reached the bottom of the platform of the deity's punishment. His 4th-level beast's full speed was comparable to a high-speed rail, and his instantaneous burst of speed showed that he was also very worried about Leah. When Gu Mengmeng arrived, she saw a small bonfire burning in front of Leah. Leah was adding firewood inside, as if he wanted to make the fire burn even bigger. Under the platform of the deity's punishment, there were a few people lying in a disorderly manner. At a glance, he saw Barit, Colin, and a few other familiar faces, but he couldn't recall their names. The injuries on their bodies were not fatal, but they were enough to prevent them from standing up and obstructing him. "Leah, what are you doing?" Gu Mengmeng shouted as she walked towards the platform of the deity's punishment. Lee's body stiffened, but he did not turn back. He only said quietly, "You don't even want me anymore, why are you still here?" Gu Mengmeng said, "You don't want to live because of a woman? What about your ambition when you founded Saint Nazir? Don't want it anymore? Where is your determination to defend Saint Nazir? You don't want it anymore? What about vengeance against those who have wronged you? You gave up too." Lee's hand paused in the act of adding more firewood, but he still threw a piece of firewood into the small fire pit. "If destroying these things you mentioned can allow me to go back in time and return to the day when Elvis and I dueled, then I am willing to slaughter the entire Saint Nazir with my own hands and go back to that time. I would rather let Elvis kill me than let go of your hand at that time and cause today's irreversible situation." Leah glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng. That pair of long and narrow eyes no longer had any trace of affection, only emptiness and despair was left. He said, "What a pity, we can't go back, isn't it? You will never forgive me. No matter what I do, how I beg, how I repent, you will never give me another chance. I don't even dare to dream of mating anymore. I just want to be a pet beast that can hug you, but you still want to push me far away. Meng Meng, if you really don't even have a place for me by your side, then don't save me. In a world without you, living is the greatest torture." Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly and her lips turned pale. Principles or Leah, which was more important? The main point of all these was that she could not break through her own principles. She was greedy but refused to admit it. Chapter 479. Leah was taken aback and smiled sadly. "All I want is to have a place by your side, to be able to protect you. That's enough." Gu Mengmeng turned around and looked at Elvis. "Hubby, I want to keep a vixen at home, can I? I promise I won't mate with him, I promise that my love for you will not diminish. Can you accept having one more member in the family?" Elvis went forward and hugged Gu Mengmeng lightly. "I've accepted him long ago, have you forgotten?" Gu Mengmeng pounced into Elvis's arms and mumbled softly, "Hubby, I'm sorry, I'm still a fickle woman." "Xiao Meng, you're not." Elvis held on to Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and said, "There's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time. Do you still remember what Leah had said to you outside the cave? He said he can die protecting you on the battlefield, but he doesn't want to see you get hurt before he dies. My thoughts are the same. I can fight for you, I can die for you, but I don't want you to have no one to protect you after I die." Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis and said, "If I accept Leah as a member of our family, it will relieve you of your worries and allow you to die without any qualms when you meet with danger. Then I don't want him, I want you." Elvis was taken aback and said, "I didn't mean that, I just wanted to say, it's a good thing to have one more person in the family to take care of you." Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly and didn't say a word, just staring at Elvis. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and sighed, "I won't die so easily, you know how much I can't bear to leave you. Don't worry, don't be afraid, I won't give up the position of the first partner to anyone." Gu Mengmeng said, "You promise?" Elvis said, "I swear to the beast deity, I will never leave you." Gu Mengmeng was satisfied and lowered her head. Elvis held on to Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and turned her around, then carried her up the platform of the deity's punishment. He pushed her lightly and said, "Go, if you don't go, Leah will really jump into the fire." Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Elvis, full of guilt. But she still took a small step forward and extended her hand towards Leah. "Leah, I'm here to bring you home." Lee's expression was blank, as if he could not believe his own ears. "You, forgive me?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Between us, you are not the one at fault. I was the one who couldn't adapt to the rules here. I tortured myself, you and Elvis. My greatest concession is to let you become a member of my family, to give you love and care, to worship and rely on you, but I will not mate with you, and I will not give birth to any offspring for you. The title of beast pet may become a lifetime of shame for you. Even so, are you still willing to stay with a selfish female like me?" Leah smiled. He staggered up and pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms. Feeling his heart beating again after death, he said, "I told you before, your selfishness is what I wished for the most." Gu Mengmeng's eyes were wide open. For the first time since the breakup, Gu Mengmeng returned Lee's hug. She was so careful and conflicted. But when her hands really touched him, she suddenly felt at ease. She accepted Leah, but the sky did not fall. "Let's go home, Daddy Leah." As you wish." Digression, are you happy? Huh? Aren't you going to say that you love me? Chapter 480. Back in the cave, Leah was still unwilling to let go of Gu Mengmeng's hand. These few days, he had been suffering terribly. He had been living in the fear of being heartbroken. The despair of losing her the last time he was heartbroken was constantly enveloping him. Every little bit of sweetness he had after staying in the cave during winter had been magnified multiple times, becoming an accomplice to torment him. The loneliness after tasting warmth was the most bitter. Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's hand on her left and Lee's right. She stood at the entrance of the cave but could not return home. The cave was only so big, 3 people could not fit in side by side. "Why don't the two of you go in hand?" Gu Mengmeng asked sincerely. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances. They each raised the hand that was not holding Gu Mengmeng's hand and punched at the 2 sides of the cave entrance. Yeah, Erlai's construction team, specializing in expanding all kinds of cave entrances. One punch to settle it, providing convenient services for your family of 3. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly as she maintained the posture of the 3 of them holding hands into the cave. But honestly speaking, it felt weird. It felt like Daddy and Mummy were bringing you to the supermarket. Damn it, Gu Mengmeng once again felt the malice from the height. Gu Mengmeng looked at the cave and felt that something was missing. After thinking for a long time, she was suddenly shocked. She turned to Elvis and asked, "Where are Hedda and the rest?" Elvis was also taken aback and said, "Ah. They seem to be still soaking in the water." Gu Mengmeng glared at him and Elvis immediately said, don't be angry. I will go get the 4 of them now." With that, Elvis hurriedly ran out of the cave. After Elvis left, there was only Gu Mengmeng and Leah left in the cave. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Gu Mengmeng pulled her hand away from Lee's grasp. Not only did Leah not let go, he even wrapped his arms around Gu Mengmeng's waist and asked, "Are you regretting taking me in?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I never really let you go. I was greedy on one side, but I did not dare to admit it at the same time. That's why I ended up like this today. If we had known this would happen, we might as well have admitted our selfishness and greed from the very beginning. Whoever wants to scold us can scold us all they want. At least the 3 of us wouldn't have to suffer so much." Leah placed Gu Mengmeng on the bed and let her sit properly. He laid on his side and used Gu Mengmeng's thighs as a pillow. His furry big tail brushed against Gu Mengmeng's waist. He said, "I know you're lying to me, but I still feel happy after hearing it. Mengmeng, this time, lie to me for the rest of my life, alright?" Gu Mengmeng gently caressed Li's hair. The texture of his silver white hair was really good, as smooth as silk. Gu Mengmeng twirled a strand of hair around her fingertip and said, "When did I lie to you? I'm obviously telling the truth, okay?" Leah said, "If you really have me in your heart, why would you be so cruel to me? Once I confirmed that you and Elvis had mated, I immediately came back to look for you. I knew that you were angry at my scheming, so you would definitely be punished, but I didn't expect that you would directly cut me off from your heart. You clearly knew that the matter between Nina and me was fake, yet you kept saying that I was someone else's male, which made my heart ache." Gu Mengmeng poked Li's head and said, "Why didn't you mention that when you were poking me at Nina's house? I was so upset that I didn't want to live, but I didn't see you feeling sorry for me." Chapter 481. Then why did you stop me from hitting Nina? Gu Mengmeng was still very angry when she thought of this. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with an aggrieved look and said, "I was afraid that you would dirty your hands and I was worried that your hands would hurt." Gu Mengmeng replied, "That would definitely not hurt as much as you pinching my wrist." Leah looked down and said, "I also know that you would definitely feel a lot of pain when I pinched your wrist. That is my punishment to myself. When you are in pain, I am in even more pain." With that, Leah placed Gu Mengmeng's little hand on his chest and said, "Here, it hurts 1,000 times more." Gu Mengmeng looked into Li's eyes. The deep love had never faded and it was even more intense than before. "You were the one who abandoned me, but now you're saying it as if I let you down." Gu Mengmeng mumbled unhappily. Leah said, "If you weren't uncomfortable and were willing to accept both me and Elvis as your partners, I wouldn't have to do so many things." Gu Mengmeng said, "Now it's my fault." Leah flipped over and sat up, hugging Gu Mengmeng from his body. He felt the complete feeling of using her body heat to fill his embrace and said, "It's not considered letting me down, but you owe me happiness. At that time, you said that I was your ex-boyfriend and asked me to maintain my demeanor and not disturb your life. Heartless Gu Mengmeng, do you know that your heartless words almost caused me to suffocate and die in front of you? You even said that you don't want things that have been touched by others." Leah kissed the side of Gu Mengmeng's face and whispered in her ear with a deep and husky voice, "Do you want to check if it has been touched before?" Gu Mengmeng's hair stood up and she had goosebumps all over her body. She said defensively, "We agreed not to mate," but Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with a "your thoughts are so dirty" expression and said, "Who said I want to mate? I just want you to check if your beast pet is clean." No need to check. I believe you." Gu Mengmeng blushed and wanted to retract her hand. But Leah did not give in. He placed his large hand over Gu Mengmeng's small hand, then slowly moved down from his chest. He removed his beast-skin dress and said, "It's better to check clearly, in case you use words like someone else's male or something that someone else has touched to poke my sore spot in the future." Gu Mengmeng knew that she should not look at indecent things, but she could not shift her eyes away. Li's body was a size smaller than Elvis's. He looked more enchanting and otherworldly, but his flirtatious aura was so fresh and refined. The lines of his muscles were smooth, without a trace of excess fat or extra muscle. His whole body looked very comfortable. Gu Mengmeng really did not have the courage to explore some special parts. She turned her face to the side and said, "Hurry and wear your beast skin dress properly, or else I will fall out with you." But Leah did not care. He exerted force in his arms and Gu Mengmeng fell into his arms. Leah laid on his back and Gu Mengmeng laid on his chest like a little puppy. She propped her hands up slightly and looked at Leah, who was smiling ambiguously. His thin red lips opened slightly and his voice was as smooth as a seductive love song. "Pleasing your own female is every male's priority. As a beast pet, I should spare no effort, shouldn't I? Or, after you enjoyed Elvis, my body is no longer enough?" Chapter 482. Leah tugged on Gu Mengmeng's collar lightly. His slender and bony fingers gently caressed Elvis's mark. "The evidence is right here. Do you still want to deny it?" Gu Mengmeng tugged at her own collar. "Enjoy my ass. Hurry and wear your beast skin dress properly, or I'm leaving." Leah flipped over, pressing Gu Mengmeng on top of him, looking down at her blushing face. kissing her lightly. So good, you still blush because of me. Whoever stands naked in front of me, I will blush. Gu Mengmeng roared without much confidence. Leah was a little disappointed, rubbing his chin. Oriton also transformed in front of you previously, but I didn't see you blush. Gu Mengmeng said. He didn't press down on me. Lee's large tail covered the two of them like a blanket. He leaned down and kissed the side of her face, murmuring softly, guess why Elvis went out. Gu Mengmeng, to find our sons. Leah suddenly laughed. When we were not at home, those 4 little rascals ran around the tribe. Which part of us are not familiar with each other? Using him to find? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback, not saying a word. Leah, he's making space for us. He wants me to serve you properly. Gu Mengmeng slapped the side of the bed. I said I won't mate. Leah flipped over and laid on his side beside Gu Mengmeng, his furry tail covering the important parts. He patted Gu Mengmeng's arm lightly with his slender hands and pinched her soft little flesh. I know. To be able to hug you like this, kiss you, talk to you properly and tell you how much I love you, without you avoiding me, rejecting me, or getting angry. I'm already very happy and very satisfied. Gu Mengmeng's expression changed. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Leah, asking, You're not angry? Letting you become a beast pet, but not willing to mate with you. Leah pulled Gu Mengmeng's little hand to his lips, kissing it. No matter what you do to me, I won't be angry. Gu Mengmeng admitted that she was selfish. And Lee's tolerance and even indulgence made her feel sweet. She burrowed deeper into Lee's arms and pressed her forehead against his chest. You're still saying you won't be angry? Who was the one who was so angry that he wanted to turn himself into a barbecue? Leah rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head gently, enjoying the fact that she was taking the initiative to approach him. He said gently, I'm not angry, I just want to know, how much do I have to do for you to ignore me out of heartache? Gu Mengmeng looked up and asked, What if I didn't come? Leah lowered his head and kissed her eyes. That proves that you really don't want me anymore, then death is a release for me. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's waist and pressed her face against his chest. You promised me that you would never do anything to hurt yourself. Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly and said, That's because your heart will ache if I hurt myself. Gu Mengmeng said, My heart will always ache, so you are not allowed to do such things again. Leah, Mengmeng, I really belong to you, right? Gu Mengmeng looked up at Leah, smiling as she nodded her head. Leah, in my life, I have never really owned anything, and I have never been owned by anyone. Mengmeng, thank you, for letting me become yours. Gu Mengmeng, silly. Chapter 483. The next night, Saint Nazir held a grand bonfire party. After Gu Mengmeng explained the plan, Leah understood and went to arrange it. Gu Mengmeng was playing rattan ball with her 4 sons not far from the venue. She was so crazy that her forehead was covered in sweat, but she was enjoying it. After being pounced on by Kanwu again, Elvis was finally infuriated. He came up and flung Kanwu far away, then carried Gu Mengmeng with one hand. Looking at Kanwu, who was spinning in midair and landing perfectly without any embarrassment, Elvis sneered, If you pounce on my wife on the ground again, I will strangle you to death. Gu Mengmeng patted the dirt off her body. It's fine, the kids are still young and don't know how to control their strength. He didn't do it on purpose, don't be angry. Elvis pointed at Kanwu. He is already at the height of your thigh. If he keeps pouncing on you, you will get hurt. Gu Mengmeng did not realize it if Elvis did not mention it. Now that he mentioned it, she took a closer look at her 4 sons. Although the other 3 were not as exaggerated as Kanwu, they were at least the size of an adult husky. What to do? So proud. My sons are tall. Gu Mengmeng laughed. My babies, what did your Aunt Sandy feed you when I was not at home? How did you grow so well? Ow, 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 the 4 little fellows fought to be the first to answer. Then, Gu Mengmeng still did not understand. Turning her head, Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis, waiting for him to translate. But Elvis sneered. Born as a wolf, but eating female food and being fed by humans. How dare you say that? Ow! The little fellows were obviously not happy with Elvis's words and were arguing with him. Gu Meng Meng immediately tried to smooth things over. What did Sandy feed them? Elvis laughed in disdain. Bode and Colin were afraid that your sons would be wronged, so they prepared food according to Sandy's. In the end, Sandy was afraid that they would not have enough to eat, so she asked Colin and the rest to carry them and feed them one more time every day. Gu Meng Meng laughed. It seems like it's true that a mother-in-law dotes on her son-in-law. Elvis raised his brow. You really want the 4 of them to mate with Sandy's children? Gu Meng Meng nodded. Yeah, why? You object? Elvis shook his head. Why would I object to what you said? It's just that. Sandy has been an adult for a long time now, but her stomach hasn't responded. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis and said with a serious expression, don't expose others' shortcomings. If Sandy hears this, she will be sad. Elvis did not continue speaking. Seeing Leah walking back, he placed Gu Meng Meng on the ground. The moment Gu Meng Meng sat on the ground, the 4 meat buns rushed over and gathered around her. Leah and Elvis had no choice. They did not dare to throw the 4 little ones out in front of Gu Meng Meng, so they could only pretend to be magnanimous and sit at the periphery, using their tails to protect Gu Meng Meng, preventing the 4 little ones from hurting her. As Gu Meng Meng played with her 4 sons, she said to Leah, I want to sit next to Sandy and Mandy at the night campfire later. Leah frowned. What about Elvis and me? Chapter 484. The 2 males looked at each other and sighed speechlessly. A few days ago when Gu Meng Meng was angry, Leah and Elvis were left out in the cold. If not for Sandy putting in a good word for them, one of them would probably still be lying at the door and the other outside the yard. Accept your fate, Gu Meng Meng would always ignore them when Sandy was around. Just as she was thinking about it, she saw Colin and Bode walking towards them, one on the left and one on the right. Sandy's face was obviously filled with anger. She sat down in front of Gu Meng Meng, huffing and puffing without saying a word, obviously infuriated. Gu Meng Meng looked up at Colin and Bode, asking, how did the 2 of you anger my little Sandy baby? Colin hurriedly waved his hands, saying, not me, not me. Gu Meng Meng shifted her gaze to Bode, who also hurriedly shook his head, saying, not me either, not me either. Gu Meng Meng smiled, the 2 of you wouldn't dare to anger my little Sandy baby. With that, Gu Meng Meng held Sandy's little hand, saying, although you look very beautiful when you are angry, I like you more when you are happy. Tell me, who angered you? Sandy could never stay angry with Gu Meng Meng for long, so upon hearing her words, she could not help but feel a little shy, saying, you are always spouting nonsense, always coaxing me, not a single word of truth. Gu Meng Meng widened her beautiful eyes, pointing to the sky and swore, if I lie to you, may the heavens strike me with lightning. Sandy went forward to cover Gu Meng Meng's mouth, saying, don't swear so recklessly, what if it comes true? Gu Meng Meng retracted her finger and held Sandy's little hand. She pulled her hand away from her mouth and held it in her hand. She nudged Sandy's shoulder lightly and said, are you worried that I will be struck by lightning? Your heart is aching? Sandy was finally tickled by Gu Meng Meng's nonchalant look. She poked Gu Meng Meng's brows in exasperation, saying, the children are watching, you are also not being serious. Gu Meng Meng saw that Sandy's mood had improved, so she stopped fooling around, saying, tell me, who exactly angered you? Look at how angry you were just now, you were about to emit smoke. Sandy was still angry at the mention of this matter. It's that Ellie. Gu Meng Meng squinted her eyes. Ellie? That snake half-beast female? Sandy nodded and said with righteous indignation, she came to find me today because we're both females of the same tribe and we're both half-beasts. She felt inferior in front of others, so it was normal for her to come to me. So, I kindly invited her to have some food with us and invited her to join the bonfire party in the evening. In the end, you know, she actually. Sandy glared fiercely at Colin. Colin innocently lowered his head and didn't say anything. Gu Meng Meng looked at his stance and asked, what? Does she fancy Colin? Colin hurriedly waved his hand and said, no, no. She didn't like me. She said that I had pursued you before. Gu Meng Meng gave him a look of understanding and said, he went to your place to sow discord, right? Sandy nodded angrily and said, his words are so weird, it makes me angry. Gu Meng Meng patted the back of Sandy's hand and said, what did he say? Let me hear it too. Chapter 485. Gu Meng Meng almost burst out laughing. She held Sandy's hand and asked, then what did you say? Sandy put her hands on her waist and said, I said, if Gu Meng Meng really wants a bear beast as a beast pet, I will be Gu Meng Meng's beast pet without Colin. Gu Meng Meng laughed, ha ha ha. That's right, which bear can be as cute and beautiful as my little Sandy? If I really want to raise a bear as a beast pet, I will definitely raise you. The four males shuddered. Leah gently tugged at the corner of Gu Meng Meng's shirt and said, isn't it good to raise foxes? Bears don't have tails. Sandy was indignant upon hearing that. She turned around and transformed into her original form, revealing her furry little tail and shaking it twice. Then, she transformed back into her human form and said, who said bears don't have tails? I do. Gu Meng Meng held on to Sandy's arm and straightened her neck to look at Leah, saying, that's right, who said our Sandy doesn't have a tail? I saw it the last time. It was a very cute little fur ball, right Sandy? Sandy nodded and said, yes, it was very cute. Leah felt a strong sense of crisis and despair. Even though she was throwing a tantrum, Gu Meng Meng still held on to Sandy's arm and asked, Sandy, you don't believe what she said, right? Sandy said, I am not stupid. I saw Colin wooing you back then. I am not blind, do I need an outsider like her to tell me? Moreover, if you like Colin, you should have accepted him back then. Why would you matchmake us? That Ellie has a bad heart. She wants me to quarrel with you and then make you sad. I will not fall for her trick. Humph. Gu Meng Meng hugged Sandy and swayed, saying, yeah, I know my Sandy is the best. She will not be provoked by others. But, that Ellie is not simple. She is different from Nina in the past. You better stay away from her, understand? Sandy tilted her head and asked, what's different? Aren't they both bitches? Yes, this was what Gu Meng Meng used to scold Nina, but seeing how Sandy did not even know what *tch meant and spat out the word innocently, Gu Meng Meng still felt as if she had led the country's flower astray. She felt guilty as if she was luring a child to steal fast food noodles. Laughing twice, he said, there are many kinds of sluts. Nina was obviously *tch, so he could just beat her back. But he had to be on guard against Ellie, who secretly hurt people. If she can tell you that Colin likes me today, she might tell you that I'm having an affair with Bode tomorrow. Sandy frowned and turned to look at Bode. Bode's legs were trembling. Under the gaze of the chief, witch doctor, and Sandy, he stammered, I'm innocent with the Lord Messenger. I didn't. Gu Meng Meng laughed and said, yes, of course there's nothing between me and Bode. But the person who started the rumor. It doesn't have to be me and Bode, it could be Maya and Bode. Mandy and Bode, Ellie herself and Bode, or Colin and Bode. The way Sandy looked at Bode was getting stranger and stranger. Bode had a feeling that he could not explain himself. He suddenly looked up at Gu Meng Meng and said, Lord Messenger, did I, accidentally, offend you? Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, you're not that stupid. Chapter 486. Colin also waved his hands seriously and said, I can't either. Gu Meng Meng placed both her hands on her knees and looked at Bode with a stiff neck. She asked, I heard that you shared with Elvis how to admit your mistakes that day. Bode thought for a while and said, yes. The mighty tribe leader said he made you angry and Sandy was coaxing you, so I taught him how to admit his mistakes. Gu Meng Meng asked again, do you usually apologize to Sandy like this at home? Bode nodded his head seriously and said, not only me, males usually apologize like this at home. Gu Meng Meng believed that Bode would not dare to lie to her and his gaze was too sincere. Since it was unintentional, Gu Meng Meng did not pursue the matter any further. She waved her hands and said, "Forget it, I will not pursue this matter anymore." Bode heaved a long sigh of relief before standing up to Gu Mengmeng and Sandy. Seeing that Sandy was no longer that angry after Gu Mengmeng's tantrum, he could not help but pat Colin's shoulder and said, "Luckily it was you who thought of this idea, or else I really don't know what to do." Colin scratched his head and said, "As long as they are together, they will not be angry." Gu Mengmeng looked at Sandy and Sandy looked back at Gu Mengmeng. Both of them smiled at the same time. Leah was a little jealous as he swayed his large tail and said, "That's why I said, the few of you should thank Mengmeng for not being a male. Or else, humph." Bode said, "Yes, yes, yes, Colin, quickly thank the great messenger." Colin was stunned and could not react in time. Bode said, "Quickly thank the great messenger for not being a male. Or else, who among the 9 males in our family would be able to snatch her away?" Colin suddenly understood and bowed to Gu Mengmeng and said, "Great messenger, I thank you for not being a male." Gu Mengmeng patted Leah and said, "How many times do you want to play this joke? Didn't Bode already thank you the previous time?" Leah, however, turned his head to look at Sandy in jealousy and said, "Sandy, you should also thank yourself for not being a male." Sandy pointed at her own nose and looked at Leah with a face full of question marks. Leah said, "If you are a male and Mengmeng likes you so much, I will definitely go crazy from jealousy and kill you." Sandy's body trembled, and her face turned pale. "And me?" Elvis's voice was cold as he squeezed his wrist, his bones cracking. Sandy pounced into Gu Mengmeng's arms and hugged her tightly. "Sobs, sobs, sobs, tribe leader and witch doctor are so scary. Gu Mengmeng, you better abandon them and live with me." Elvis and Lee's faces froze. They gritted their teeth, they really wanted to strangle her to death. Gu Mengmeng turned around and glanced at her husky and Samoyed, saying, "If you continue to show off, both of you will have to sleep outside the cave tonight." Leah threw himself into Gu Mengmeng's arms, wrapping his furry big tail around Gu Mengmeng's waist. His long and narrow eyes were filled with affection as he pointed at Elvis and said, "It's all your fault. Why did you scare Sandy for no reason? Look, you've angered Mengmeng, aren't you going to apologize?" Elvis's face darkened. He looked at this scapegoat and clenched his teeth. In the end, he still lowered his head and said, "I was wrong." Gu Mengmeng did not harp on this matter anymore. She just held Sandy's little hand and asked, "Other than Ellie, what do you think of the other new females in the tribe?" Sandy thought for a while and said, "They're all very good. Complete females are originally very rare, it's already not bad for a tribe to have 1 or 2. So many of them came to Saint Nazir at once, it makes me happy looking at them, aside from the topic. Alright, my babies, are you happy reading today's update? I love it when you guys are smiling the most. If Susu's text can make you guys smile, please leave a comment and let me know because this will make me very very happy. Chapter 487. Gu Mengmeng said, "They used to be the first beauties of the tribe, so it's inevitable that they would be a little arrogant. Did any of them bully you and Maya just because they are complete females?" Sandy shook her head and said, "Sigh, it's strange. They are all complete females, but their personalities are all better than the other. Especially that first beauty that you personally chose, she would smile at me every time she sees me, and speak to me in an amiable manner. Yeah, it's just a little weird, they seem to be imitating you." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback, and suddenly understood. As the messenger of the beast deity, in their eyes, she was probably like a modern little girl who was infatuated with an idol. Give me a XX nose and a XXX chin. In the beast world, there was no such thing as a nose and chin for sale, so she could only get a similar temperament. Alright, if the females here could learn from her, at least it would be pleasant to interact with them. Just that, how long could they last? Speaking of Mandy, Gu Mengmeng suddenly recalled something. She hurriedly took out a bamboo cup from her pocket and handed it to Sandy, saying, "Here, this is for you." Sandy received the cup happily and smiled, saying, "Eh? Isn't this the cup you gave to the first beauty? I have one too." Gu Mengmeng hooked Sandy's little face and said, "In my eyes, you are the first beauty, no one can be compared to you." Before Gu Mengmeng could finish her sentence, she felt a tightness around her waist and was carried up by Leah. Without any communication, he and Elvis sandwiched her in the middle and walked towards the main venue of the night campfire party. As they walked, they said, "The decorations at the venue are almost done, you have to come over and see where to place that thing from the previous time." Colin also carried Sandy up in a tacit understanding and walked back with Bode. He said, "Look, the great messenger is so busy, you can't keep causing trouble for her. Let's go home first and find a place to place this cup. If not, it'll be useless even if you cry if it gets lost later." The two females were forcefully separated, and when they regained their senses, one was already at the venue and the other in the cave. Gu Mengmeng knew that these two fellows were jealous, blaming her for chatting endlessly the moment she saw Sandy and giving them the cold shoulder. But which woman wasn't the same? Bosom friends always have endless topics to talk about. Gu Mengmeng glanced at the thing Leah was talking about and smiled. "This is called a drum. It's a musical instrument from my place. When I used to work at the amusement park, I learned how to make it from the old man who sold souvenirs. However, my skill was not good, and it was far worse than the old man's. This one is barely usable." Leah took the wooden mallet that Gu Mengmeng had made previously and knocked on the drum. He smiled and said, "Let's perform that song today. It makes one's blood boil and I feel that it suits today's atmosphere very well." Gu Mengmeng took over the drum stick and played with it in her hands. "Previously, it was to help Sandy and Colin to liven up the atmosphere that I risked my voice. Today, since it's the welcoming ceremony, let's throw caution to the wind." Leah smiled and nodded, before asking again, "Then, what should I sing for the second song?" Gu Mengmeng said, "Colin has already mated with Sandy, how could there be a second one? Just sing a song to warm up the place." Chapter 488. Gu Mengmeng frowned and asked, "Singing, a little happiness again? I'm already traumatized." Leah shook his head and said, "You're not allowed to sing that song anymore." Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng's waist and said, "Just one song will do, don't tire yourself out." Leah did not insist and only said, "Then who's going to help you carry the drum? Me or Elvis?" Gu Mengmeng felt the increasing pressure from both sides. This was the start of internal strife. Did they have to fight for this kind of physical labor? For the sake of family harmony, Gu Mengmeng said, "Both of you help me carry the drum and be more stable, all right?" Elvis and Leah nodded and did not say a word. At sunset, half the sky was dyed red by the setting sun. Gu Mengmeng asked someone to take a few large pieces of oil from the animal fats and smear them on the wood. Then, she held a torch and lit it up lightly. The wooden pagoda that was as tall as a human was instantly ignited. Gu Mengmeng turned around and raised the torch high up. With a loud shout, with Elvis leading the way, all the males roared towards the sky. The scene was rather spectacular. Gu Mengmeng did not change her clothes because she did not intend to perform initially. She only agreed because she did not want to reject Leah. That cape and shorts had long been lost somewhere and could not be found, so Gu Mengmeng could only wear her normal clothes and stand on the drum. Although it was a little weird, fortunately, according to the standards of the beast world, which part of Gu Mengmeng was not weird? This set of clothes was not that important anymore. Elvis and Leah lifted the drum steadily and Gu Mengmeng sang and danced on the drum. Although her movements were obviously not as energetic as when she proposed to Colin, it was enough to shock those who had just joined Saint Nazaire and were witnessing such a performance for the first time. When Gu Mengmeng finally roared at the top of her lungs, the sound of tearing. Colin stood up and transformed into a bear. He pounded his chest with both hands and roared towards the sky. In just a breath's time, the original tribesmen of Saint Nazaire immediately understood and transformed into beasts, roaring together with Colin. The new tribesmen were influenced and also imitated them to transform into beasts, roaring towards the sky. This act later became a ritual in Saint Nazaire. Every year, when new members joined, Gu Mengmeng would sing Alien once, then the guardian messenger would lead the roar towards the sky. It was said that if we roared together, we would be a family. However, Gu Mengmeng was completely dumbfounded. What was the connection between screaming together and being a family from now on? Is there any scientific evidence? For example, after shouting, the DNA would be shattered, causing genetic recombination, and they would become a family? And the one who added fuel to the fire was Leah. The explanation he gave was, the roars of the males with all their might would be transmitted to the mighty beast deity who had come to listen to the messenger's song, letting the mighty beast deity know of their unity. From then on, they would become the tribe of the messenger that the mighty beast deity recognized. Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders and thought to herself, this is definitely bullshit, but everyone in the beast world believes it. Originally, Leah and Elvis were supposed to slowly place Gu Mengmeng down from the drum amidst the roars of the crowd before saying a few motivational words and starting the barbecue carnival. But when the roars stopped abruptly, there was a sudden change. Chapter 489. Leah. Gu Mengmeng reached out to grab Leah worriedly, but missed. The drum let out a loud thud and rolled to the side. Gu Mengmeng thought she would fall along with the drum, but the strength around her waist was like an iron clamp, locking her body in place. Looking up, she met Elvis's blue eyes. His brows were tightly furrowed, sweat pouring down like rain. He was clearly in pain, but he was forcing himself to hold on. Hubby, what's wrong? You guys, what's wrong with you guys? Gu Mengmeng had no idea what was going on. She could only hold on to Elvis's shoulders and stare into his eyes. Elvis was trembling all over, but he still controlled his strength and slowly placed Gu Mengmeng on the ground. Gritting his teeth, he squeezed out a sentence, "Don't run around, it's dangerous." Then, as if he was being pressed down by something, he crawled on the ground, unable to straighten his back no matter how hard he tried. This scene was so familiar. It looked exactly like the others who could not straighten their backs when Elvis released his beast pressure in the past. Gu Mengmeng stood up and looked around, only to realize that no one was standing apart from her. Many orcs were unable to maintain their human forms due to the pressure. There were a few strong ones, but they were all sprawled on the ground like Elvis, unable to get up. Ow, 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 ow. The familiar cries made Gu Mengmeng's heart skip a beat. She looked towards the source. It was Heda and the rest. The four little fellows had been tied up with tree vines and were being dragged out of the tribe. Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered with Elvis's instructions and chased after them. But her speed was too slow. By the time she reached the boundary of the tribe, Heda and the rest could no longer be seen. Heda! Gu Mengmeng yelled at the top of her lungs, "Qi Xian! Jiaoyu! Jianwu!" None of the children responded to her. Gu Mengmeng plopped onto the ground, her head exploding with a bang. Bullshit messenger of the beast deity, how could she be so helpless at such a time? Gu Mengmeng knew that crying was useless, but she stood rooted to the ground, not knowing which direction to run in. "Come up." A familiar voice rang out. Gu Mengmeng looked up and saw Ian standing in front of her in his half-orc form. His wings were spread open and he was ready to fly at any time. His forehead was full of sweat and it was obvious that he was suffocating from the strong beast pressure. The bleeding wound on his leg was a ghastly sight, but Gu Mengmeng did not have time to care for him. She just jumped onto Ian's back. The moment Ian caught Gu Mengmeng, he transformed into an eagle owl and flapped his wings to fly into the sky. The higher he got, the more stable Ian became. He circled a few times before flying in a certain direction. At this height, Gu Mengmeng was basically in a state of being blind. She could not see anything in other than the sound of the wind whistling beside her ears. She had no other senses to use. The only person she could rely on now was Ian, who was carrying her. After flying for 2 days, Gu Mengmeng and Ian arrived at Sauter. Standing at the entrance of Sauter, Gu Mengmeng was already in a daze. After 2 days of non-stop flying, both Ian and Gu Mengmeng were exhausted. Gu Mengmeng's only hope of saving her son was to hold on. "Are Heda and the rest here?" Gu Mengmeng asked Ian. Ian shook his head and said in a weak voice, "After we took off, Heda and the rest were nowhere to be found." Aside from the topic, "Yes, that's right, I was the one who caused trouble. I just could not bear to see Gu Mengmeng live a good life for 2 days and had to torment her." Aren't all mothers-in-law like this? Chapter 490. Then why did you bring me here? Gu Mengmeng howled hysterically, her tears falling uncontrollably. Ian forced himself to hold onto Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and said, "If it's a wolf cub, you have to remain calm." Gu Mengmeng forced herself to hold back her tears and looked at Ian stubbornly. She kept telling herself in her heart that she had to be strong, she had to be strong. Her sons were still waiting for her to save them. Ian took a deep breath and said, to be able to use beast pressure to suppress the entire Saint Nazir, he must be at least a 5th level orc, and not someone who just reached 5th level. He must be at least a 5th level middle stage or even a 5th level peak. Under such circumstances, even if you and I find a wolf cub, we won't be able to bring it away. You need reinforcements, 5th level, 5th level. Ian could not hold on any longer, and before he could finish his sentence, his body tilted and he landed beside Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng supported Ian and forced herself to calm down while repeating Ian's words, 5th level orc. I know a 5th level orc, reinforcements. Cole. Gu Mengmeng suddenly understood what Ian meant. Among all the 5th level orcs she knew, the only one who was willing to help her and had the ability was Cole. Gu Mengmeng used all her strength to support Ian up and walked towards Sauter with difficulty, step by step. Just when she reached the signboard, she saw Cole leading a group of people out to welcome them. Cole leads the Sauter tribesmen to welcome the mighty messenger. Cole stopped 3 steps away from Gu Mengmeng, one knee on the ground, and placed his right hand on his left chest to bow. Gu Mengmeng did not have the same confidence as Ian. When she left this place, she was not very friendly towards Cole. Even because of Leah, she was quite hostile towards Cole and spoke rudely. Back then, she bragged that she would never come to Sauter again and wanted to make Saint Nazir into a brand new messenger tribe, blah 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 blah. Now, would he still be willing to help her? She bit her lower lip. For her sons, what was her face worth? Even if Cole said that he would only help if she lay on the ground and barked like a dog, she would only ask if he wanted her to learn from a Pekingese or a teddy bear. Cole, help me. Gu Mengmeng's nose turned sour. She only managed to say these 5 words before her tears fell. Cole frowned and stood up to take Ian from Gu Mengmeng's body. He handed him over to the person beside him and said, "He looks like he is overly fatigued. Bring him to the stone house to settle down and let him recuperate." The people next to him didn't say anything and directly helped Ian to leave. Cole then turned around and gently wiped away the tears on Gu Mengmeng's face. He frowned and said, "Sauter is the messenger's tribe and we are your loyal subordinates. As long as it is your command, Cole will definitely execute it to the end. So, Lord Emissary, don't cry, you are our god. If you cry, we don't know what to do." Gu Mengmeng wiped away the tears on her face and looked at Cole with gratitude. "Someone kidnapped my son, but I don't know who it is." He had used his beast pressure to suppress everyone in Saint Nazir, so Ian suspected that the other party was at least a 5th level or above orc. "You're the only 5th level orc I know. Can you help me save my son?" Chapter 491. In the next few days, Gu Mengmeng was arranged to be protected in the core building of Sauter. Only then did Gu Mengmeng know that Cole was not the only 5th level orc in Sauter, but there were 3 of them. The 3 of them took turns to guard Gu Mengmeng, in case the person who kidnapped the little wolves turned around to deal with Gu Mengmeng. And the remaining 2 mobilized all their connections to search for the whereabouts of the little wolves. It was the 3rd day. This was the 3rd day since Gu Mengmeng arrived. Cole dragged his tired body into Gu Mengmeng's room and exchanged information with the person on duty yesterday. The person on duty yesterday immediately went out to continue his search. Meanwhile, Cole walked to Gu Mengmeng and knelt on the ground. He frowned and said in a hoarse voice, "Great messenger, don't worry too much. No news, might be the best news." Gu Mengmeng looked up at Cole. No matter how indifferent she was to Cole, she had already noticed his sunken cheeks and dark circles under his eyes. "These 3 days, it's been hard on all of you." Gu Mengmeng felt a little guilty. She was the one who lost her son, but she could only sit in the house and wait for others to help her find her son. She could not help at all, and the only thing she could do was not to cause trouble. Cole smiled and said, "It's Sauter's honor to be able to serve the great messenger. It's also my honor that you can think of me when you are in trouble." Gu Mengmeng shifted her gaze outside the window and asked calmly, "Where's Ian? Is he still not awake?" Cole replied, "He woke up this morning. Although he was very weak, he still flew away." Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Cole and asked, "Flew away?" Cole nodded and said, "He said he will return to Saint Nazir first to inform Mighty Elvis and Mighty Leah about your situation, so that they won't be too worried if they can't find you." Gu Mengmeng nodded and felt a little melancholic. She ran away in a moment of panic because of her child. Elvis and Leah must have gone crazy from not being able to find her. She gently touched her collarbone. There was a black wolf mark there. She remembered Elvis saying that if she was in danger, she should hit this mark hard and he would rush over to save her. If she did not continue hammering, Elvis should at least know that she was safe. Cole maintained his kneeling position by Gu Mengmeng's feet. He looked up into her eyes and said, "Great messenger, do you miss Great Elvis a lot?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. "They must be very worried that I suddenly disappeared." Cole smiled. "It seems like Lord Leah is also very important to you." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "They are all my family, of course they are very important." Cole nodded and smiled. "I, as his elder brother, am happy for him that the great messenger thinks so highly of him. When the little mistress is found, please invite Sir Elvis and Sir Leah to stay in Sauter. After all, this place was relatively safer. We can prevent this incident from happening again." Gu Mengmeng met Cole's eyes and asked, "Is this your condition to help me find my son?" Chapter 492. Cole's suggestion did not receive any response from Gu Mengmeng, and after that day, Cole did not bring it up again. After another 3 days, when Cole staggered into Gu Mengmeng's room covered in blood, Gu Mengmeng jumped in fright. Cole staggered to Gu Mengmeng and knelt down on one knee. He held up a ball of blood with both hands and presented it to Gu Mengmeng. Lifting his blood-stained face, he smiled and said, little master. I brought it back for you." A trickle of red flowed down his forehead, past his eyelashes and dripped onto the floor like a bloody tear. Gu Mengmeng's hands trembled as she took the lump of meat that was dyed red with blood from Cole's hands. Before she could see clearly what it was, Cole had already collapsed at Gu Mengmeng's feet. Gu Mengmeng was so frightened that she lost her head. The guards at the door hurried in and heaved a sigh of relief when they realized that there were no intruders. "Great messenger, don't be afraid. We will carry Leader Cole out now." Gu Mengmeng looked at the blood-stained Cole and then at the ball of blood in her hands. "There's no need for that. Go get the witch doctor and boil some water." "Yes." The people at Sauter never questioned Gu Mengmeng's orders. They just carried them out. Not long after, Witch Doctor Dylan rushed over. He checked on Gu Mengmeng the moment he entered the room. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with her, he heaved a sigh of relief and started to treat Cole. The person guarding at the door brought in boiled water and Gu Mengmeng started to carefully wash the blood lump in her arms. When basin after basin of clear water was replaced with blood water, the blood lump's original appearance was finally revealed. Qixuan. Even though he was quietly closing his eyes and not moving, Gu Mengmeng could clearly tell which son was in her arms. "Baby, I am Mummy." Gu Mengmeng held back her tears and gently wiped Qixuan's body with a beast skin. She called out softly, "Good little Xian, don't scare Mummy. Quickly open your eyes and look at Mummy, alright?" No matter how she called out to him, Qixuan just lay there motionlessly. If not for the fact that his pulse was still beating, Gu Mengmeng would have suspected that her son was dead. She had carefully examined Qixuan's body. There were no obvious wounds, so the blood should not be Qixuan's, but Cole's. Gu Mengmeng carried Qixuan to Dylan and asked, "How is Cole?" Dylan shook his head and said, "I don't know what kind of enemy could actually injure clan leader Cole to this extent. 9 of his bones were broken, and there were countless external injuries. The worst part is the laceration on his abdomen. His internal organs can be seen, and the wound is black. It seems like he was poisoned. More than half of the blood on Cole's body had been washed away, but the wound was too big. The moment the old blood was washed away, new blood immediately flowed out. The beast's skin on the bed was already soaked. It would be strange if he didn't die from this. Gu Mengmeng asked Dylan, "Do you have an antidote?" Dylan looked at Cole's wound and deliberated for a moment before saying, "This poison is not very serious. With Leader Cole's abilities, he should be able to digest it himself. The main problem now is to stop the bleeding. If the bleeding can't be stopped, I'm afraid it's impossible to save him." Gu Mengmeng handed Qi Xian over to Dylan. "Help me check on him too. Cole's injury, let me try." Chapter 493. Gu Mengmeng did have a theoretical method. As for actual practice, she had only observed Leah suture Sandy's partner Adali's wound. But now that Leah was not around, if she did not do anything, Cole would be dead meat. Her hands trembling, Gu Mengmeng suppressed the fear in her heart and used one hand to stabilize the exposed flesh, while the other hand began to suture. Or perhaps she should be thankful that Cole was in a deep coma, or else Gu Mengmeng's method of suturing would probably kill Cole to death. Although the process was a little complicated, Gu Mengmeng finally managed to fix Cole's wound back in place. After asking for a clean boiled beast skin, Gu Mengmeng wrapped Cole up like a mummy. After settling Cole, Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at the dumbfounded Dylan and asked, "What's wrong?" Dylan suddenly snapped out of his trance and said, "The great messenger's medical skills are really miraculous and amazing." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said tiredly, "Save the flattery. How is my son?" Dylan replied, "Little Master did not suffer any external injuries. I have checked his internal organs and found nothing wrong with them. He is in a coma, it might be due to poison. But I am afraid we will only know what kind of poison it is when Leader Cole wakes up." Gu Mengmeng nodded and hugged Qi Xian in her arms. "Then don't go back to stay for this period of time. I remember that there is an empty room beside mine. You can stay here first so that it will be more convenient to deal with any emergencies." "Yes, sir," Dylan replied respectfully and left the room. Gu Mengmeng carried Qi Xian and sat by the window. She gently stroked his back and said, "Little Xian, be good, you must be safe, understand? You must get better quickly and then we can go find your other brothers. Mummy still wants to see you all grow up, evolve, mate and have babies." Cole remained unconscious for half a month. When he opened his eyes again, he saw Gu Mengmeng carrying Qi Xian in her arms and lying on the side of his bed. A pair of soft hands were placed on his wrists. "Great messenger." Cole moved slightly. The sharp pain in his abdomen made him frown and cry out in a low voice. Gu Mengmeng woke up with a start. She sat up and stared straight at Cole. They stared at each other for a long time before returning to her senses. Gu Mengmeng reached out to touch Cole's forehead and realized that he no longer had a fever. She then heaved a sigh of relief and said, "You're finally awake." "Great messenger." Cole wanted to say something but was interrupted by Gu Mengmeng. "You've been in a coma for more than half a month. You've been relying on honey water to maintain your strength. You must be very weak now. Although I have a lot of questions to ask you, I'm not in a hurry. Lie down first. I'll get someone to bring you some food. We'll talk about the rest later." With that, Gu Mengmeng placed Qi Xian by Cole's bedside. "Help me look after my son." Cole smiled gently and said, "All right." Gu Mengmeng turned around and went out. As she called Dylan in to check on Cole's body, she instructed the guards outside to prepare some light food and fruits. Chapter 494. Gu Mengmeng prepared sweet potato porridge for Cole and added minced meat. She also cut a small plate of fruits and passed it to Cole. Cole wanted to take it from her but he could not even lift his hands. Gu Mengmeng scooped a spoonful of porridge and blew on it to warm it before bringing it to Cole's mouth. You were injured because you saved my son. Give me a chance to take care of you. Consider it as compensation. Cole did not reject her and did not say a word. He just smiled and finished the food Gu Mengmeng brought to his mouth. This was not the first time a female fed him like this. But it was the first time he felt a warmth that nourished his entire body. After eating, Gu Mengmeng wanted to carry Qi Xian up from the bed, but Cole held her wrist gently. He waved his hand and said, You must be exhausted these few days, right? Let him sleep beside me for a while. You can also rest. Gu Mengmeng pushed Cole's hand away and carried Qi Xian in her arms. I will not feel at ease if my son is not in my arms. I will carry him. Cole did not stop her. He smiled and said, This is the first time I have seen a female like you being so concerned about a male cub. He is clearly not the eldest son nor the youngest son. Gu Mengmeng knew the tradition of the Snow Fox tribe. The eldest son would inherit the position of tribe leader while the youngest son would inherit the authority of the witch doctor. So she only cared about these two sons. The flesh that fell from my body is a treasure in every aspect. It has nothing to do with the ranking. Cole's gaze was a little complicated. She could not tell what he was thinking about. In the end, he just nodded silently. Then, without waiting for Gu Mengmeng to ask, he went straight to the point. The one who kidnapped the little master is Ellie. The power behind her is the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Ellie? Why? Cole replied, My initial guess is that she wants to use the little master to lure you to the Snake King Valley. But the mighty one in the Snake King Valley has no interest in unifying the beast world. Otherwise, he would not have sealed himself off from the Snake King Valley for so many years. So, I suspect that all these are Ai Li's personal decisions and she was the one who wanted to lure you to the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng thought about it. The last time Ellie surrendered to Sauter, Cole rejected Ellie because of her. At that time, Ellie gave her a piece of scale with simplified Chinese characters written on it. She could tell that it was a fake at one glance. At that time, Ellie mentioned that the real one was in the Snake King Valley. Therefore, her motive right from the start was to lure him to the Snake King Valley. It was just that she wasn't very curious about that information, so she didn't take the bait. So she changed her target to the wolf pups. What was his purpose? Everyone would have a motive for doing things. Deceiving her to go to the Snake King Valley, and then what? Moreover, since she had the ability to kidnap the wolf cub, why didn't she kidnap him directly? Wasn't it easier to deal with a female than to control 4 wolf pups? Gu Mengmeng really could not understand. Frowning, Gu Mengmeng looked up at Cole and said, I want to make a trip to the Snake King Valley. Chapter 495. But my son is there. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Cole forced himself to sit up and said, I'll go on your behalf. Gu Mengmeng looked at the blood seeping out of his abdomen and said, You're already so injured, how can you go? Moreover, that's my son, there's no reason for you to take the risk for me. Cole did not loosen his grip on Gu Mengmeng's wrist, as if he was afraid that she would immediately run to the Snake King Valley. He frowned, but not because of his bleeding wound. I'm a 5th level beast, I'm already like this just by getting close to the borders of the Snake King Valley. What can you do even if you go? Gu Mengmeng said, I'm the messenger of the beast deity, maybe he will do me a favor. Cole shook his head and said, in the entire beast world, everyone is afraid of the title of messenger of the beast deity, except for him. Gu Mengmeng asked, why? Cole said, he's the son of the previous messenger of the beast deity and has lived for 1,000 years. Some people say that he has already transformed into a dragon and become a true god, an existence on par with the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng forced a smile and said, since he's colleagues with my beast father, then as a junior, if I visit him. I should, Cole said, I can't let you take the risk. Believe me, I will definitely bring the other 3 little masters back, I will definitely, Gu Gu Mengmeng supported Cole and said, "Lie down first, don't be agitated. I'm not a rash person, even if I have to save someone, I will make preparations before going." Hearing Gu Mengmeng's words, Cole finally relaxed a little and laid down slowly. He said, "Give me some time, I will recover as soon as possible." Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and did not continue talking about going to the Snake King Valley. She just asked, "How did you save Qi Xian? If you're not tired, can you tell me?" Cole nodded and his voice was very weak, as if the struggle just now had exhausted too much of his energy. But he did not want to disappoint Gu Mengmeng, so he forced himself to say, "In the beast world, 5th-level beasts are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. A male beast that has reached this level cannot be a nobody." Those few days, the three of us took turns to go out and visit these 5th-level beasts one by one. In the end, I set my target on the Snake King Valley. Of course I didn't dare to offend Snake. My original target was a Group 5 snake beast Wabiai in the Snake King Valley. But I had just reached the outskirts of the Snake King Valley when I met Ai Li and saw the little masters who were tied up by her. Gu Mengmeng frowned and asked, "Alone?" Cole shook his head and said, "There were a few other males and some of them looked familiar. They should have come to solder together with you." Gu Mengmeng frowned. "Those who came to solder with her, weren't they from Saint Nazir?" Cole continued, "She has a very strong male with her. I can't tell where he came from and I don't know him either. All I know is that he's extremely powerful. Even I can only barely fight him to a draw. If not for a tiger beast charging out at the critical moment, I might not have been able to bring little Master Qi Xian back." "Tiger beast?" Cole nodded and said, "In the chaos, I only heard some deity, someone, saying sorry to you." Gu Mengmeng remained silent for a moment before asking, "Official Su Xian?" Cole recalled for a moment and nodded. Gu Mengmeng asked, "And then? What happened to him?" Cole took a deep breath and said, "His chest was torn apart by Ai Li and he died from eating his heart." Digression, today's update was completed again. Chapter 496. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly before slowly releasing them. She said, "Killing my tribesmen and hurting my son, ha. I really became Mr. Donghua for once and saved a frozen snake." Cole sighed and hesitated for a moment before placing his hand over Gu Mengmeng's. He said, "I will recover as soon as possible. Once I recover, I will bring my tribesmen to the Snake King Valley to find Snake. Even if he is the Snake King, he would not dare to go against the entire beast world." Gu Mengmeng retracted her hand and took a step back without anyone noticing. She said, "Didn't you say that it is very dangerous to offend the Snake King Valley?" Cole smiled and pretended not to notice Gu Mengmeng's distancing. He said, "For the great messenger, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not hesitate." Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "No need. You've already done enough for me. I can't drag you down any further. Recuperate well, tomorrow. I will set off for Saint Nazir." Cole frowned. "No way, it is too dangerous." Gu Mengmeng smiled. "Don't forget, I am the messenger of the beast deity. I have the protection of the flame demons. If they are not willing to return my son to me, I will burn down the entire Snake King Valley." Cole said, "If Little Master is also in the Snake King Valley, he will be accidentally injured." Gu Mengmeng did not reply to Cole. She just turned around and said, "Helping me to this point is enough. Have a good rest." Gu Mengmeng pushed the door open and left. During this period of time, Cole was unconscious. She gave up her room for Cole to stay in while she stayed in a slightly further but quieter room. Looking at Gu Mengmeng's departing back view, Cole slowly sat up straight. He lowered his head to look at the wound on his abdomen. With a disappointed gaze, he muttered, "Is this degree still not enough?" A figure leaped in seductively. Her long and slender fingers gently brushed across Cole's abdomen. That cold touch was completely different from Gu Mengmeng's warmth. Cole frowned in annoyance and swatted away the slender hand that was rubbing his wound. He turned his gaze to the side and revealed an impatient expression. The hand that had been slapped away did not touch him again. Instead, it gently cupped its chin and moved its face closer to Cole's abdomen. It stuck out its tongue and licked the blood that seeped out from Cole's wound. A snake tail coiled around Cole's waist in an S shape, supporting his body and arching him up, like a lazy king looking down on everything. Ellie twisted her waist and slid upwards slowly. With a seductive expression, her snake tail slowly entered Cole's beast-skin dress and wrapped around his thighs. Leaning forward, she displayed her beautiful body and said in a teasing tone, "She doesn't know what's good for her. Why do you have to be so persistent with her?" In order to gain her trust, she had actually injured herself so badly. But in the end, didn't she still have to leave? Why don't you give it to me easily? At least, I will treat you sincerely. Cole strangled Ellie's neck and stretched out his arm, increasing the distance between them. He frowned in disdain and said with a disdainful gaze, "She is the messenger of the beast deity. How dare you compare yourself to her? You overestimate yourself." Ellie almost suffocated and her gaze became even more dazed. Her hands gently wrapped around Cole's arm that was strangling her neck and rubbed it back and forth, saying, "You are indeed Lord Cole. This bloodthirsty look is really captivating. Please take my life, it belongs to you." Cole sneered and flung his arm, throwing Ellie onto the ground. He took out a piece of beast skin and wiped his fingers in disgust. He said coldly, "You are so lowly that it makes me disgusted. Don't say that you belong to me. You are not worthy." Aside from the topic. Chapter 497. Ellie did not get angry. She moved her body and climbed onto Cole's body again. She peeked her head out from Cole's shoulder and her hands roamed restlessly on Cole's body. She stuck out her tongue and whispered into Cole's ear, "She said she wants to leave tomorrow. Will you let her go?" Thinking of Gu Meng Meng, Cole's expression changed slightly. His gaze became gentler and the corners of his lips curled up a little. He said, "It was not easy to snatch her over. How can I let her go?" Ellie said, "Since she wants to see her little wolf pups so badly, why not lock her up with those wolf pups?" Cole looked at Ellie coldly and said, "She is my noble owner and you actually want to lock her up? Are you courting death?" Ellie's body trembled and her face was full of infatuation. She said, "But if we don't lock her up, how can we stop her from leaving?" Cole turned around and sat back on the bed. He frowned and said, "That damn bird, if not for the fact that Agu might be suspicious and kept it as a backup, I would have killed it directly. If that was the case, Elvis and that good brother of mine should be searching around aimlessly like headless flies instead of concentrating on attacking Sauter." Ellie coiled her snake tail and snuggled beside Cole's feet. She placed her fair arms gently on Cole's thighs and her dark green hair spread over Cole's knees. She tilted her head and looked up at Cole. She said, "I heard that Elvis leveled up again when he was fighting with the 5th level beast you sent. It has only been half a year since he mated and he actually broke through 2 levels consecutively. TSK, what a top-notch product." As Ellie said, she stuck out her tongue. Her snake eyes straightened and she revealed a greedy smile. Cole pinched her lower jaw and laughed in disdain and sarcasm. He said, "I asked you to seduce him, but what happened in the end? You didn't even touch his belt, right? If you don't have enough skills, you won't be able to eat him no matter how top-notch he is." Ellie frowned in grievance. She said in a demonic voice, "That blockhead is so stubborn. He can't see anyone other than Gu Meng Meng. No matter how hard I tried to please him, he didn't even look at me. Even that brother of yours." Cole sneered and pushed Ellie away. "With Gu Meng Meng around, you are indeed too inconspicuous." With that, Cole strode away, leaving behind only one sentence. "I still have use for those 3 wolf pups. Use the right amount of poison, don't kill them." Allie shook her body and answered with a yes before climbing out of the window. Cole sorted out his emotions. When he pushed open the door, he already looked weak and concerned. He held onto the wall and walked to Gu Mengmeng's room, knocking on the door. With Qi Xian in her arms, Gu Mengmeng pushed open the door and was a little surprised to see Cole. "Why aren't you lying on the bed? Why are you walking around? What if the wound opens up again?" Gu Mengmeng said as she held onto Cole's arm and led him into the house. Cole smiled warmly and said to Gu Mengmeng, "Great messenger, if you must leave Sauter tomorrow, please let Cole accompany you." Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole's wound and frowned. "How are you going to escort them with your injuries? It's better for me to stay here and recuperate. I'll get someone else to send me off." Chapter 498. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "But your injury." Cole took 2 steps forward agitatedly and said, "I'm fine, His wound split open and Cole was in a lot of pain. Gu Mengmeng went forward to support him and frowned. "Look at you, still trying to be brave?" Cole took the opportunity to hug Gu Mengmeng. He circled her waist with one hand and hooked her chin with the other. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with deep and meaningful eyes and said, "Ah Gu, why are you so concerned about me? Actually, you have me in your heart too, right? Although I can't leave my mark on your body, I will give you all my loyalty. You will accept it, right?" Gu Mengmeng's chin was held by Cole as she stared at him quietly. Her eyes were misty and her thin lips moved slightly. "Cole. Air." Cole's smile bloomed on his lips as he kissed Gu Mengmeng's neck gently. He replied gently, "Yes, I will always be by your side." "Ah Gu, I like you so much. Can you stay by my side? Let me always be by your side and take care of you, alright?" Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and didn't reply. Cole looked up and blew a gentle breath at Gu Mengmeng. Then, he stared intently into Gu Mengmeng's eyes and repeated hypnotically, "I have your favorite big tail. It's even bigger and softer than Li's. My body is also stronger than your wolf companion, so I can satisfy you better during mating. A perfect male like me is willing to crawl at your feet and pledge allegiance to you, waiting for you to pamper me. What are you still hesitating for? Isn't it good to have me and have me?" Gu Mengmeng slowly lowered her eyelids as if she had lost consciousness. Cole leaned forward and wanted to kiss Gu Mengmeng's lips. But before he could do so, he heard Gu Mengmeng's cold voice. "You said, who are you stronger than?" Cole was taken aback. He looked down and realized that Gu Mengmeng was holding Ellie's scale against his wound. "Ah Gu?" Cole called out softly. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and said, "I don't remember allowing you to call me by such a disgusting name." Cole's frozen expression only lasted for a moment before he quickly calmed down. He then took a step back and lowered his head respectfully. "Great messenger." Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. "Surprised? The fox seductive fragrance has no effect on me." Cole shook his head. "It only proves that I am not good enough to move the great messenger." Gu Mengmeng nodded approvingly and said, "Compared to that vixen of mine, you are really too lacking." Cole clenched his fists instinctively and looked up to meet Gu Mengmeng's smiling eyes. He slowly relaxed and lowered his head, saying, "Compared to Sir Leah, I am still lacking in many aspects." Gu Mengmeng patted Cole's shoulder lightly and said, "Since you have already said so much, stop pretending. To be able to endure until now before using the fox seductive fragrance on me, you can be considered to be quite patient." Cole frowned and glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng. "You have been guarding against me from the start?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I didn't when I first arrived. When Ian asked me to ask for your help, I really treated you as a life-saving straw, Cole, then." Chapter 499. Cole did not seem to understand as he stood on the spot, questioning Gu Mengmeng with his gaze. Gu Mengmeng smiled and lowered her head to look at her son in her arms. Her gaze and tone were so gentle that one would not be guarded against her. Who would risk their lives for someone they have no relatives or friends, and not even ask for something? It's not like Guanyin Bodhisattva who is merciful to the world. Cole frowned and asked, "But Sauter is the messenger's tribe, it's only right to listen to the messenger's orders. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, Sauter is following the previous messenger of the beast deity, not me. And it's impossible to be absolutely loyal to a legend from 1,000 years ago. If you are really so loyal to the messenger of the beast deity, then the current leader of Sauter should be your big brother, and Leah should be here as a witch doctor. Just you, what right do you have to be the leader? Cole frowned and his eyes were filled with violence. When he stared at Gu Mengmeng, he could not hide his anger, as if, Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, Why? Did I step on your sore spot? Ah, so this matter is not only the nightmare of my vixen, it's also your inner demon, right? Cole clenched his fists tightly as he stared at Gu Mengmeng with a frown and said word by word, I am the leader of Sauter. Gu Mengmeng nodded and admitted, Yes, you are. Don't worry, my vixen has no designs on Sauter. You can keep this broken tribe for yourself, we don't want it. Broken tribe? Cole took a step forward and pinched Gu Mengmeng's jaw. He smiled coldly and squinted his eyes, saying, He doesn't care about Sauter, then what does he care about? Saint Nazir, or you? Unfortunately, he can't protect either of them. I will destroy Saint Nazir, then, possess you. Gu Mengmeng smiled and did not resist. She just looked at Cole and said, You are indeed not afraid of the beast deity. Cole laughed coldly and said, Since the beast deity has never loved me, why should I be afraid of him? Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, That's true, a beast deity that has never manifested his spirit is indeed not worth being afraid of. However, you should be afraid of me. Cole frowned before smiling again. He caressed Gu Mengmeng's little face with his thumb and said with a devilish affection, Why should I be afraid of you? Not only did Gu Mengmeng not retreat, she even moved closer to Cole. Cole did not dodge and allowed Gu Mengmeng's little face to come close to the tip of his nose. There were many emotions that he could not understand in those clear big eyes, but he was mesmerized by them. Every action of hers made him crazily want to have her. This was the kind of female that should stand by his side. Don't you have any doubts? Since I've already seen through it, why should I stay by your side and continue acting instead of leaving? Cole frowned and stared at Gu Mengmeng without saying a word. There are so many places to live. Why did I choose this small room? Cole scanned his surroundings warily but did not discover anything unusual. Are you suspecting that I'm bluffing? Gu Mengmeng suddenly slapped Cole's hand away and turned to sit on the side of the bed. At the same time, the wall on Cole's left started to loosen and then collapsed with a loud bang. Dust flew everywhere like billowing smoke. Chapter 500. Gu Mengmeng gently caressed the little snow fox's neck, as if she was thinking about something. She looked up at Cole and asked, Where are my sons? Return them to me. Cole was obviously taken aback when he first saw the little snow fox, but he quickly regained his composure, as if he was not afraid of Gu Mengmeng's hand on the little fox's neck. He just looked at Gu Mengmeng attentively and said, The little masters are very safe. As long as you are willing to stay by my side, I can let you see them anytime. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and looked at the snow fox she was pinching. Now, are you in a position to negotiate with me? Cole smiled and said, I have already reached the peak of 5th level for a long time. Even if my partner dies now, I will not lose my life due to the backlash of the contract. If you are willing to kill her personally, I will treat it as you being jealous because you do not like other females around me. To me, it should be a kind of reward. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, Although the backlash of the mating contract will not take your life, it can still severely injure you. By then, do you think you are still Elvis's opponent? Cole did not seem to take Gu Mengmeng's threat seriously and said, I have no opinion on you killing Jillian, but I am afraid the one who is reluctant is Leah. Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and turned to look at Leah. Why? First love? Leah turned his head away awkwardly and looked at Gu Mengmeng from the corner of his eye. He nodded slightly and said, We were engaged before. Gu Mengmeng lifted her chin and Leah immediately added, But I do not like her. The engagement is set according to the tribe rules. The witch doctor must marry the female from the tribe leader's family to maintain the stable relationship between the deity and the regime. Gu Mengmeng did not pursue the matter and just smiled. You don't have to explain, I believe you. Li's smile warmed up and he hugged Gu Mengmeng's waist and kissed her little face. He rubbed his forehead against Gu Mengmeng's and said in a low voice, Mengmeng, I miss you so much. Gu Mengmeng patted Li's back and said, I miss you and Elvis very much too, but we have to settle Cole and save the little wolves first. Leah nodded. His slender hands turned into sharp claws in front of Gu Mengmeng and pierced towards Jillian, as if he was trying to prove to her that he had no feelings for this little fox. Leah. Gu Mengmeng stopped Leah and shook her head lightly. It's not my style to kill an unconscious female. Leah shrugged his shoulders helplessly. I'll listen to you. Gu Mengmeng walked to Elvis's side and hugged him again. Then, she said, it must have been tough during this period, right? After we save our son, I'll make you a delicious tonic. Elvis's voice was a little hoarse as he gently rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head. Then, he pulled her into his arms and finally heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 501. Cole nodded and said, that makes sense. But if I die, you will never be able to see those 3 little wolf pups again. If you don't mind, you can come and kill me now. You don't have to go through so much trouble to activate the mating contract. Just use that snake scale in your hand and cut me into pieces, I will not dodge. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth and said, your life is not as valuable as my son's. Cole took a step forward and wanted to hold Gu Mengmeng's little hand, but his wrist was grabbed by Elvis. The two of them stared at each other and refused to give in. Cole suddenly smiled and said, Gu, actually, what's wrong with staying in solder? Everything here belongs to you, including me and them. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and took a step back. She was a little disgusted and said, they originally belonged to me, it's the same no matter where I am. As for you, I don't want dirty things. I am dirty things? Then what about Leah? What about a fellow who had an affair with his father's beloved concubine and was banished from the tribe? Cole looked at Leah with a hideous expression and revealed an indescribable smile. Leah clenched his fists tightly but could not say a word. Gu Mengmeng frowned and went forward to give Cole a tight slap. She said, watch your mouth, my vixen is not such a person. Cole did not seem to be angered by this slap and instead laughed even more wildly. You are angry from embarrassment, right? Everyone in the tribe saw whether he is such a person or not, it's him, he was the one who angered our father to death, broke the tribe rules and brought shame to solder. That's why he was banished. You didn't know anything and you actually took him in as your beast pet? You. Gu Mengmeng raised her arm to slap Cole but her body was hugged from behind. Turning back, Gu Mengmeng met Li's long and affectionate eyes. That pair of eyes was misty and he looked at Gu Mengmeng quietly. He said, Mengmeng, I didn't. Gu Mengmeng nodded and pulled Leah into her arms. I know you didn't. Cole laughed loudly and shook his arm forcefully, freeing himself from Elvis's grip. He leaned against the door frame and looked at Leah. His tone was so harsh that it was unbearable. Gu, you've actually enjoyed Leah long ago, haven't you? It's just that he's the same as me, someone who's mated with another female, so he can't leave a mark on you. That's why you're telling others that he's your beast pet, right? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She suddenly recalled that before the incident that day, Elvis had purposely found an excuse to leave the cave to create an opportunity for her and Leah to mate. At that time, she had told Leah, I will not mate with you. At that time, Li's reaction was a little lonely, but more of helplessness and responsibility. He remained silent for a moment and only said to her, I am already satisfied to be able to stay by your side. As for other things, I don't care. At that time, Gu Mengmeng thought that he was referring to mating and having children when he said he did not care. Now, it seemed that this was included as well. The more she doted on Leah, the more rumors would spread. No one would believe that she did not mate with Leah, so the fact that she did not have Lee's mark on her body became the evidence that Leah had committed that crime in the past. Leah pulled Gu Mengmeng and hugged her gently in his arms. I don't care what the truth is in other people's eyes. I only care about you. So, don't be affected by him. It's enough that you know I'm innocent. Aside from the topic, remember that Leah wanted Gu Mengmeng to do a body check that day? Leah said, aren't you going to check if your beast pet is clean? Chapter 502. Gu Mengmeng patted Lee's back, then turned around to look at the giant bird circling in the sky. Although she had only sat on it once, she could still recognize that it was Ian. Gu Mengmeng smiled, looks like it's a done deal. Cole suddenly turned around and looked at Ian in the sky. He frowned and said, Gu, what are you planning? Gu Mengmeng's smile slowly faded, and finally froze into a cold expression. I'll give you one last chance. Return my son to me, then we'll leave and pretend nothing happened. Cole, leave? Where are you going without my permission? Gu Mengmeng raised her brows. Then there's nothing to talk about. Cole raised his head, determined to win. Gu Mengmeng took 2 steps back and sat back on the bed. She took out a small bamboo tube from under the blanket, opened the lid and poured it into the little snow fox's mouth. Cole instantly felt something burning in his chest. He instinctively wanted to go forward to stop Gu Mengmeng, but was blocked by Elvis, who did not budge an inch. Gu Mengmeng threw the small bamboo tube to Cole. Smell it, maybe you know what this is. Cole put it in front of his nose and sniffed, instantly frowning. Amulet used to wash away the mating mark? Gu Mengmeng nodded. Yeah, luckily our tribe had a completely heartless negative example, or else I might have to kill someone to restrain you today. Cole knew he did not have much time. The backlash from the contract would come very quickly. He had to get rid of Elvis before it happened. But Elvis was already a 5th-level orc. He could not be defeated with just a simple release of pressure. To fight for more time, Cole suddenly launched an attack on Elvis. Each move was deadly, definitely not like Damagua, who was displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Elvis was rich in battle experience, but Cole was not inferior to him. After a few moves, both of them were badly mutilated, their wounds so deep that their bones could be seen. Gu Mengmeng frowned. They were both 5th level, but Cole was still suffering from the backlash from the mating contract, yet he could still injure Elvis so badly. He had underestimated the enemy. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth and gave Leah a look. Leah immediately understood and took out a small beast-skin bag from the pocket of her beast-skin dress. Gu Mengmeng took it and sniffed it. She smirked coldly. Leah quickly joined the battle. Although his level was not high, with their many years of teamwork, he was able to cooperate well. He left a few wounds on Cole's body that were not fatal but were enough to restrict his movements. Gu Mengmeng saw the opportunity and roared, disperse. Elvis and Leah retreated to the sides in tacit understanding. Gu Mengmeng shook the beast's skin in her hands and the red powder danced in the air. After shaking it, Gu Mengmeng immediately covered her mouth and nose with her arms and turned to run. But before she could take a step, she felt the weight on her waist lighten and she was pulled into an embrace. It was mixed with the smell of blood, but also had a warmth that made her feel at ease. Compared to Cole's uncontrollable howls, the moans above Gu Mengmeng's head made her even more worried. Raising her head, she met with a pair of blue eyes, slightly reproachful, but more heartache. Battles between males are very dangerous. You are not allowed to rush up in the future. Gu Mengmeng nodded obediently. Seeing some chili powder fall on Elvis's wounds, she could not help but feel heartache. Does it hurt? Chapter 503. Let me help you treat your wounds first. Gu Mengmeng said. Elvis shook his head and glanced sideways at Cole, who was rolling on the ground. I am not as powerful as him. If I miss this chance, I will never win. With that, Elvis handed Gu Mengmeng over to Leah. He ignored the wounds all over his body and continued to fight with Cole. Elvis had as much chili powder as Cole had on him. Both of them were severely injured to the bone. Neither of them had the upper hand. Gu Mengmeng's heart ached at the sight. She regretted her stupid move. It was such a loss to sacrifice 800 men to kill 1,000 enemies. It was not worth it at all. But luckily, Elvis won in the end. He tore off Cole's arm and slammed his knee downwards. The bones in Cole's calf gave off a crisp sound of bone breaking. With a miserable howl, Cole completely lost the ability to retaliate. He could only lie on the ground and twitch. Actually, Gu Mengmeng was not used to such a bloody scene. But for her son, she had to endure it even if she was afraid. Cole wriggled his body and forced himself to sit up. He leaned against the corner of the wall in a strange position. He looked at Leah with a ferocious gaze as if he was a devil that had crawled out from hell. He wrote while blood flowed out of his mouth. "So what if you kill me? Haha, you will forever be Sauter's sinner, the sinner that angered father to death. Everything you have, everything you cherish, will eventually belong to me." Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng gently and used his body to block her view. He said coldly, "You are wrong. I have nothing. I have never owned anything in this world. The only lucky thing is that I am Gu Mengmeng's possession." Cole bared his teeth. His gaze was bloodthirsty. He touched the old wound on his abdomen that Gu Mengmeng had stitched up. Because of the fight, the wound that was not stitched up properly was torn open again. But Cole did not care at all. He just laughed coldly and said, "Ah, Gu will also be mine." Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole's words. She just separated herself from Lee's arms to take care of Elvis. She knew that Leah and Cole must have some old scores to settle. And all she had to do was to silently support Leah. That was enough. Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead. He then slowly walked to Cole and squatted down to look him in the eye. One was as white as snow. If he was covered in dirt, the difference was obvious. Chapter 504. "It's not your cubs, why are you so nervous?" Cole sneered. "Ah, you want to pretend to be a good person in front of Agu? It's no use, she won't fall for it. She just told me, no one would risk their lives for someone who is not related to them, there must be a condition." Leah smiled. "You don't have to care about my motive, you just have to know what kind of situation you are in now." Cole smiled too. "Do you think I'm a fool like you? You guys are not killing me now because you haven't found the little wolves. Once I hand them over, you guys will use all means to torture me." Leah nodded. "It's really hard to be kind in front of you. Since you don't believe me, let's put it in another way." Lee's smile was still calm and indifferent. He strangled Cole's neck with both hands. "Hand over the little wolves, or else I will make death an extravagant hope for you." Cole wanted to say something, but his throat was being strangled by Leah. He could not make a sound. Leah seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said, "Ah, are you waiting for your guards?" Cole narrowed his eyes, only to see Leah beckoning towards the door. Then, Oriton dragged something covered in blood and walked out of the door. He couldn't see anything else clearly, but that foxtail was very eye-catching. Leah gave Cole some time to think. "Or, are you waiting for those warriors to attack Saint Nazir while Elvis and I are here to save Mengmeng?" "Yeah, they should have reached Saint Nazir by now. But what should we do? There's not a single person in Saint Nazir now. All the warriors in our tribe are in Sauter. In other words, Sauter is under our control now." You're lying." Cole could no longer keep his expression straight. He leaned forward and wanted to grab Leah. Leah stood up slowly and took a step back. He frowned. "I'm sorry, but Mengmeng doesn't like others touching me." Cole did not give up and looked outside. But he realized that there was really no one on his side in his field of vision. "Impossible, it's impossible for you to know. All the arrangements were directly ordered by me, I don't know your orders, I just know your character." Leah looked down at Cole and said, "You purposely used your beast pressure to suppress Saint Nazir so that Mengmeng would take the initiative to seek help from you. After all, you are the only 5th level orc that she knows. Therefore, Mengmeng's appearance must have made you very proud. But you also know that Elvis and I will definitely come looking for you. Once Mengmeng sees us, she will not rely on you anymore. So the best way is to get rid of us, get rid of Saint Nazir, get rid of everything she can rely on, and let you be her only crutch. This is just a reenactment of the method used to deal with me. How could I not have guessed it? Cole narrowed his eyes and sneered. My ninth brother has really grown up. Leah looked down and said calmly, it's just a lesson learned. However, I can tell you that your warriors most likely won't be coming back. After all, you, who are at the peak of the 5th level, were already in such a state from the backlash of the mating contract. They, who are only at the 4th level, may not be able to withstand it. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.